It's always fun for me personally to play against Team Liquid. They felt like the biggest rival to me ever since I joined C9. And Santorin has always been the jungler that I thought was the best in the league besides myself. Now that they're together, it's obviously a team and a player that I want to beat to show I'm the best, right? To show C9's the best.
I think it's always been a fun matchup against Blabber. I feel like sometimes he just has the upper hand, sometimes I have the upper hand. Now, 2021, I feel like he's been playing better as an individual, but I still have some time to get back in shape.
He's a very good jungler. He's very consistent in the way he plays, and I rarely see him make game-losing mistakes. When he sees an opportunity, he's there to punish.
They are looking for a potential engage here.
And now in goes Santorin, baby! It's first blood!
Going up against Cloud9, I think you always have to be careful of Blabber. And Blabber is really good at playing these carries and basically just taking over the game by himself.
Now Someday finds himself caught in the middle of two once more, but the backup has arrived. Is it there in time? It's a double kill!
That ain't no regular Viking.
Blabber goes over the wall! 100 Thieves think they found him out, but the story is the opposite. Kill them all. And again.
Blabber, all you can say is he is just built different.
Every time I think of Cloud9, I always think of Blabber and how I can kind of neutralize him, so we have a favorable matchup.
So the last time we played TL, Santorin, his Hecarim got really fed, and he pretty much ran over the game.
Pretty much, we can maybe kill him. I guess soon, by the way.
Yeah, you.
Kill minion, I get 6. Kill minion, I get 6.
Are we them all here? I'm on Scanner.
Okay.
Scanner.
I'm flashing out. I think we're good. Oh, I'm dead. Where is he?
Go back, has flash.
Yeah, we dive.
Yeah. Can you tank? You're gonna do.
Nice.
Nice.
Oh, yeah. They do so much.
Hecarim's gonna be really fed this game, okay?
Well, 3 people versus Perks. How does he get out of this one?
Easy dive for the squad. 4 TL is coming. The horse comes in, finds a fear, and Santorin kills under the turret.
He's about to go legendary on this Hecarim.
Team Liquid takes down Cloud9.
It felt like that game was just like too easy and it's hard to actually like take too much out of it. So moving forward playing C9 again, I'm really excited to kind of get a more realistic take on which team is stronger.
TL would be the only team to have a 2-0 record versus us if they were to beat us, and that gives us something to prove. I honestly just think we're a bit better than them right now, and we'll be able to show that.
Well, we will have to see, Blabber. Hello and welcome back, everyone, for the showdown between our lock-in champs, Team Liquid, and our top team in the standings, Cloud9. Let's dive right into the rivalry and right into the jungle matchup. Santorin, Blabber, we've built it up. How you guys feeling about the matchup? Crumbs, let's start with you.
I feel great because when the league unanimously thinks that Blabber is the best jungler, we ask him who the second best jungler is, and he cites Santorin. So these two are at the top of their game right now, and it's going to really come down to that jungle matchup and how the teams fight for these camps. I think they're going to just go toe-to-toe, and the whole team will just have to bend to the will of these two, because as we've seen, and when they play, it tends to be the jungle that dictates how Cloud9 and TL goes.
And not just this split either. I feel like for the last year and a half, including spring and summer of last year, it was Blabber versus Santorin for who was the best jungler in the LCS. So every time these guys clash, you know you're going to have a pretty good game.
Well, we'll see where they decide to throw their resources here today, or whether or not they take them all for themselves, because as we just saw in that feature there, it was Santorin on the Hecarim who was the ultra-fed one, and most of Cloud9's victories do seem to come from a Blabber carry. But that isn't, of course, the only matchup that matters here. There's also a big battle in the mid lane between one of our, long mainstays here in the LCS of Jensen, now always vying for that top spot when it comes to mid lane, but Perks, the newcomer, who's just finding his form here in spring.
I'm definitely not biased being towards mid matchups or anything like that, but I am excited for the mid matchup more than anything else in the game. I've had my experience playing versus Jensen a lot. He may or may not have clapped me in the past. Whether or not he can do that to Perks, we shall see. But I think something really cool is that Perks is a player that likes going for kills in lane and tries to actually show that he's better than them. One, by his picks, like you saw the other day, he picked LeBlanc into Azir. I personally hate that matchup unless I get a lot of ganks, or as he says, he doesn't think the other person is that great at Azir, then you can get away with it. So when you have a player with that attitude that he can do that in picks and then in play as well, it's going to make the enemy player also have to step up to the plate. And I want to see Jensen become more and more of a dominant player. His mechanics are great, his CSing is great, but I want to see him like basically kick the other person's butt, you know?
There it is. There it is.
Well said.
Well done. Wait, yeah, good save.
Thank you.
Beat him up.
Yeah, I think I want to see that too, and especially because it feels like their like power curves for this split have kind of been opposite each other most of the time. When C9 started in lock-in, there's obviously struggles as they were starting to, you know, play together really for the first time, and Jensen was at his peak. And then when the regular season started, I felt like Jensen went through a little bit of a slump, and Perks started leveling up. And so I'm looking forward to the time where both of them are totally grooving and they get to go against each other, and I'm hoping that's today.
I want to see what Perks picks against Jensen, because it feels like his pick dictates what he thinks of the opponent. And Jensen, I don't think has been having some very good games. I mean, yeah, you're getting some wins, but the laning phase yesterday against Golden Guardians was fairly lackluster. We saw 3 canceled ultimates, like a practically melee range against the Victor on the Lucian versus Victor matchup. It shouldn't have gone that way. So if Perks is feeling like Jensen might not be having the best week, he might capitalize on that with a spicy pick.
Now, you might be thinking to yourself, all right, well, those are the 2 biggest matchups on the Rift today. Enough said, let's get into the game. Well, you're wrong. There's one more. Who could forget the number 2 top laner against the number 2 top laner we've got going up against each other today?
It's also funny because I feel like they're opposites in playstyle. You know, Alfari is generally playing carries, generally playing strong side, trying to dominate the lane as hard as he can. And most recently, Fudge has been playing a lot of weak side Gragas. So this might be one of those times where both players can play well and have totally different looking score lines.
I think Fudge wants to play the carries. I think he wants to be the Camille. I think he wants to be the Jace. No top laner goes into top lane and is like, yes, pick me that Shen, except for maybe Impact. Pick me that Ornn. Pick me that Gragas. I'll have a blast on it. No, they want to be the ones that picking Irelia, Akali, Camille, Fiora, etc. So hopefully, you know, when these guys battle, we get something fun. I don't want to see like a Gragas into a Trax or something boring. You know?
Before
like,
Renekton.
Give me some battles, you know?
100% that's what we're getting. We're getting Renekton versus Gragas. I'm sorry to spoil it for you.
Science versus Karma, fellas.
Absolute banger of a game. We're heading over to Captain Flowers and Azale for the call.
Thank you very much, Dash. I'm Captain Flowers, that's Azale, and we will be your guides to the rest of the LCS action here today. Starting off with this one that I have been looking forward to all week. It's C9, it's TL. C9's already at the top of the table, locking in the playoffs. TL, one of those teams in the big melee right there behind him in second place. I hope we get a bloodbath, Isaac.
I'm incredibly excited for this. You know, it was just a week or 2 ago, Core8J, the team was sitting at, what, 5-5, 6-5, and he said, we're going to end this split with only 5 losses. We are going to win out. We are going to finish 13-5 here. Cloud9, one of the teams standing in their way from being able to do that. And Cloud9, it feels like, has been unanimously considered the best team in the league in the regular season. They have shown that in the standings, separating themselves from the pack very quickly. But Team Liquid wanting to remind everyone they are a force to be reckoned with. They are one of the teams that dealt a loss to Cloud9, dominated them the last time around, as we saw in that teaser. It wasn't just Santorin going off. All of Team Liquid did have a really strong game. We saw Elfar crushing top lane on the Renekton, so I'm so excited to see what we are going to get here today.
All right, bans coming through. We've got Renekton and Hecarim banned away first and foremost from Cloud9. So rest easy, analyst desk. No boring, overdone Renekton matchup here in the top lane today. Oh no, sir, we are keeping it spicy. We've got a Lilia ban here to finish off their first round, as Udyr and Alistar have been banned away from Team Liquid, and we still have one more to see.
Okay. Could be interesting. You know, maybe see something like a Lilia. Lilia's already taken off the table. I want to see if they want to pinch that jungle pool even more. You know, do you want to ban out the Olaf? Because Cloud9 is definitely willing to first pick the Olaf. We've seen Blabber run over so many teams with that pick. Makes a lot of sense there as a ban. Blabber himself even, you know, calling himself the one-trick Olaf, which is a bit of an exaggeration, of course, but he is known for that. And we are going to get a Gragas. Remember, this could be flexed. So there is the consideration there, but Fudge has been playing it a lot more than we have actually seen it come out from Blabber. Blabber just has the 1 game on it so far this split. Fudge has actually played it 6 times already. You know, notably had that long stretch after a bit of a slow start in the regular season. Was kind of on Gragas duty for a couple weeks.
And talking about flex picks, a very powerful flex pick in the Tristana. This champion just feels like it is S tier right now. So incredibly powerful at escaping, at all-inning, at winning late, at scaling late. I just don't know what Tristana's weakness is supposed to be. Team Liquid pick it up for themselves, and the Rel also locked in from an S tier support pick here for the squad.
Yep, you got that Rel, you have the engage, you have the scaling here. You know, normally you would say this is a flex pick, but Jensen's never played Tristana his entire career. I don't know that he's going to play it here today. We've seen Tactical already bringing it out. So if I'm Cloud9, I'm assuming that this is the bot lane already locked in for Team Liquid and probably going to be acting as such. They could mix things up, but Caitlyn coming through is pretty interesting. Caitlyn has not been shown in the LCS really at all this year. The Caitlyn Thresh combo still can be pretty powerful if you can hit a hook. You can follow up with the trap there, flay them potentially into that. The all-in combo is very deadly. You also have to be very careful when you're playing Tristana into Thresh that you are actually timing your rocket jump appropriately, because you can be flayed out of that rocket jump, which can really spell disaster down there on that bottom lane. And somebody is going to be happy here today. Skarner's on the menu.
Man, Skarner's win rate is so bad. Everybody been having some unfortunate games here on Skarner, but Santorin is looking to turn that one around. We got 2 super powerful purple champions over on the side of Team Liquid now. With the Skarner locked in, we still got to see both of the solo lanes coming out of Team Liquid here heading into the second half of the draft, and they will ban Irelia away from Cloud9.
Irelia getting banned out. Pretty interesting stuff. Fudge has been playing more carries lately, so there's always the possibility of Irelia mid, Irelia top. That makes sense. Camille, another really big one for Cloud9. If they want to play towards that side lane, Camille is something you could expect to be coming out. But perhaps if Team Liquid are going to leave their pick for last, it would be a lot more dangerous to blind something like that against Alphari, right? If you blind the Camille or you blind something along those lines, he might come out with the Jax as the answer. So that is something that they're really going to have to take into consideration. But it's actually Cloud9 banning out the Camille here, thinking that Team Liquid might be willing to blind it themselves, and I guess not being willing to actually answer with the Jax in that skill matchup where you can get an advantage.
All right, what's the last ban here for TL? Looks like we're going to get Karma banned away. So not allowing that one to show up here in what I would assume to be a top lane supportive Moonstone style.
Yeah, Fudge has played it twice, so that is the concern here, I think, is just not allowing Fudge to have some sort of safe blind pick, try to take away that potential of just going Karma and just playing more for the team fight, less about the lane. I think they're trying to get Fudge into some sort of a skill matchup up on that top side. There are still other blind pick options if it's not in fact the Gragas. Of course, it could just be tank Gragas, which is pretty difficult to actually abuse up there. But things like GP can be pretty powerful if you want to play down towards bottom side. Playing with Caitlyn, generally that is going to be somewhat of a focus because Caitlyn wants to push. That's generally how she's successful in lanes, is by getting the shove, chipping away at the tower, trying to farm those turret plates, and it's actually going to be Jensen saving his pick for last. So they will blind the Gnar, and with Irelia banned out, with the Camille banned out, those are 2 of the most common answers that people do have into it. Jace is available and is another one. That is an answer that if they want to flex that Gragas to jungle, they could actually go towards the Jace as a pretty strong option here, something that we have shown quite a few times in the LCS.
Well, it looks like they might take 30 more seconds to think about how they want to deal with the Gnar pick. They know that they have to blind mid lane either way, or potentially pick something that will be able to survive into Tristana as well. And the choice here is Azir for Cloud9 and for Perks.
Okay, well, pretty strong front to back style fight. So with the GP coming through, that will be the answer to the Gnar. This does mean it's going to be jungle Gragas. So very interesting comp here. Feels like a lot about the front to back. It is a little bit on the squishy side as you're expecting Blabber to go pretty much full AP. Your only real tank, so to speak, is Thresh, which isn't going to be a true tank. But with Azir as well as the Caitlyn, you have an incredible amount of backline damage. You have the Gangplank to help set up those engages, drop the ult on some of these carries, go forward with the Gragas, with the Thresh, try to start those engages off. And on the other side, it's a lot about the Wombo combo. It's a lot about this hard engage that Team Liquid does have. A tremendous amount of AoE ultimates with the Mega Gnar, with Rel, with Shockwave to follow that up, the ability to get picks with this Skarner, and an incredible amount of consistent DPS here from the Tristana, from the Orianna, who are on the safe side as far as those carries go. So a lot of powerful team fighting here. I think a lot of this game will be decided in the 5v5, and that generally points towards Dragons, that points towards Barons, and less about those split push win conditions. Because while GP can play to that side lane, Gnar can play to the side lane, they're not usually champions that win the game through side lane. They create advantages and then move across the map and then collapse and look to support the 4v4 or the 5v5.
This game is or at least should be, I'm expecting it to be, such a close contest between these teams. If we rewind and think about everyone's expectations coming into spring, even back before the lock-in tournament, everybody had eyes on C9 and TL. And then C9, they had to get together. Everybody had to make sure they were on the same page. Fudge had a rough opening showing back in the lock-in tournament. So a lot of people were like, well, C9 didn't show up how we expected, and TL won the whole thing. Now we're into the regular season. TL's the one lagging a bit behind, while Cloud9 is just racking up wins over and over and over and over again. And after this week, we only have 1 week of regular play left before the playoffs hit. So TL being in this melee of everybody just so close to each other around second place, it matters a lot, the difference between being second and being somewhere down there like 5th or 6th. Team Liquid wants to make sure they're picking up as many wins as possible to close the distance here on C9, and they've got to go through these guys to do it. Skarner Spires on the map are Celestial, and that means he is using my favorite Skarner skin. Oh, yes, indeed. If you play Skarner, this skin is beautiful. Everything from the visual design to the audio design, it's all just phenomenal. He does a constellation thing. I don't know much about horoscopes or zodiacs or space, to be quite honest with all you guys, so I'm not sure what it is, but he does a constellation when he backs. That's cool. So yeah, I am not even shy about shilling for this skin. I love this skin. If you play Skarner and don't have it, I highly recommend picking it up. I love these things.
All I can think of is just the meme. Have you ever seen a player with such movement? Have you ever seen a skin with such beauty? Incredible. Constellations left and right. Spires that look like space. Amazing.
It's fantastic. I love it.
Well,
okay.
There you go. So we know your skin tier list very clearly now. Skarner, the Space Scorpion, is at the top. That much has been revealed, but still a lot left to find out in this game. TL has been getting the better of Cloud9 throughout the season when you consider lock-in. They beat them 3-2 in the finals. They won their first matchup last time around, so if you're counting all of that, 4-2 so far this year against Cloud9. Cloud9, though, has been on the up and up, as you said. And I think one of the biggest improvements we've seen from players on their team is actually Perks. Not that Perks was playing bad at the start of the season, but he is playing so well. He's been finding solo kills in lane, it feels like, pretty consistently. And now he is going up a very tough challenge here in Jensen. And I want to see if he can still play aggressively, look to set up plays with aggressive Azure ultimates, and try to coordinate with Blabber, because there is some explosive engage potential here between those two champions.
Oh, down at the bottom side, we're already getting spicy here in the 2v2 at level 1. CoreJJ losing half of his HP as Vulcan and Sven maintain control of this lane, maintain control of the wave. They get the shove, they get the level 2, and they'll be sitting comfortably down here. Caitlyn and Tristana is such an interesting matchup between the two of them with the range, because we know that Tactical will eventually be able to outrange his opponent as the game goes forward, as he gets more levels. But here early on, Tristana's the same as any other marksman, and Caitlyn will have that advantage during the laning phase.
Yep, and that Flay interaction that we saw is so important, not just for protecting the Caitlyn from CC, but because you actually deny the Aftershock from being procced, right? That's one of the things that makes it so important. When you Flay Rel out of the air, she doesn't CC anyone, so she doesn't proc the Aftershock, which is really what you're relying on in the early game to be tanky in these engages. So CoreJJ is actually going to play in the dismounted form. Cloud9 have got to be careful, because what you can do is a W flash, where you remount, flash on them, and your first auto will fling them in. So if you step too far forward on a push like this, you can actually get flung into the tower and potentially all-in on. So Cloud9 will have to be very cognizant of that.
Santorin first to the crab here as Blabber decides to respond. He has Perks coming to help him, and they force the flash over the wall from Santorin to be able to maintain his safety there. Nicely done from Cloud9, utilizing the power of mid lane priority.
Yeah, and they had top lane prio as well. Fudge was actually moving down, so that was a risky crab to go for. Santorin does get out with his life, but it cost him the flash, and rightfully so. You know, if you're looking just the priority in the lanes, you wouldn't expect him to be able to go for that. He did have a faster clear, though, and that's what allowed him to do it.
Oh, nice hook coming out from Vulcan here, starting off the fight against CoreJJ and Tactical, but it's turned around rapidly. Vulcan's down to 200 HP, but with Blabber showing up, Tactical and CoreJJ cannot continue chasing after this any further.
Yeah, they go for the trade here, but I think they kind of overcommitted. You get the hook onto CoreJJ, you flay him into the trap. That is nice, but there's no aftershock on Vulcan. So, he's not going to be that tanky, and this time CoreJJ is going to land the repel and attract stun. He procs his own aftershock. He has the dismount shield there as well that is going to absorb a tremendous amount of damage, and they were just able to turn that around pretty effectively. Trist is considered a late game champion, but if you are free firing with Hail of Blades and the explosive charge up, there's not a lot of champions in the game that will actually outtrade you. You have to be so careful about that, and because he was able to get multiple autos with that E on Vulcan, who was stunned up, cost Vulcan both his summoners.
Back here in the mid lane, everything is even between Perkz and Jensen at this moment. Azir versus Orianna, one of those matchups that it feels like you expect every mid laner to be able to play this from either side. We've seen it so many times throughout the course of history of League of Legends. And right now, it's Jensen who wants to go ahead and get himself a recall, but Perkz will not allow such a thing to happen, provided he has the opportunity to interfere, and he does. So that means Jensen has to stick around a little bit longer, clear out this big double wave that's about to collide with the turret. He cannot afford to miss out on that many resources. Alphari will be the first one of the solo laners. Oh, excuse me, it was actually Fudge who had to use the TP a little bit earlier than this, but both top laners have now teleported back into the top lane. So without those summoner spells available, we could see junglers try to pay a visit up there, especially as they both close in on level 6.
And things are going really well for Alphari, right? Like his buy was actually a lot better. The base timing there is pretty important because Fudge had to go back and all he could afford is Doran's Blade. Alphari went back with 1,100 gold. He's able to actually buy his tabbies outright, which is going to be so important, not only for the move speed, but even just in this trading, being able to stay up on top of Fudge and also taking a little bit less damage thanks to that armor. So is a pretty important buy, and we'll see if he can continue to extend an advantage here, or if Fudge can start to stabilize, because this is really your opportunity to punish.
Well, he got a nice wallop, nice Mega Gnar usage there. Alphari continuing to look for the damage as Fudge gets away underneath the turret. Alphari does not want to overcommit, but he will successfully trade Fudge down to 400 HP, of course, as he reverts into the smaller Gnar. That just means his health isn't too far off, so Alphari will shove this one up, get the minions underneath the turret, make sure Fudge cannot freeze it, continue to provide whatever harass he can, and then back away. Next Scuttle Crab is spawning on the top half of the map, and you can see Blabber is already there to secure that one. Make sure he's fighting for whatever he can in neutral territory, despite the fact that he might not have the prio in the side lanes. He knows he can take this crab very quickly, very effectively, and there it goes.
And Alphari has to play safe as a result, right? You know your jungler is bot side, you crash the wave, so it will come back to you, so just don't get greedy here. You've got to save your hop, and now that's on cooldown. I think he could easily die here, or at the very least get the flash.
Well, there it is. Flash engage coming out from Blabber. Alphari still alive, still somehow getting away thanks to the flash. 200 HP remaining, but it's enough to send him home safely.
Yeah, he does survive, but I've got to say that that was a bit of a misplay. Using your hop there, there's no reason. The wave is pushing towards you. Sacrifice 1 or 2 last hits there, and then you're full HP under the tower, and you get that wave. Now, because he actually greeted for it, he used the hop to avoid a barrel, then doesn't have it for the gank. He has to blow his flash and base, and will lose 2 waves, it looked like, at least. So his farm advantage is now entirely gone off of that misstep.
Santorin with the Hex Flash over the wall, going after Blabber here, lands the slow with the E, does not want to continue chasing this one all the way, recognizes that Jensen is not in a good spot to rotate over and fight this 2v2 in earnest, so he does not want to continue going after the big man in the jungle. Worth noting that as that gank in the top side for Cloud9 got the flash out of Alphari, it was the first Drake going over to Team Liquid. Because Santorin is maxing that Q on Skarner, you have that higher percentage HP damage. He is exceptional at taking down dragons, at taking down Rift Heralds, pretty much anything solo. Very effectively, very quick, doesn't lose any HP doing it, so that means that Team Liquid bought themselves an advantage through that. But the gold is still dead even, Isaac. It's a couple hundred in the advantage of Cloud9. Nice hook, threading the needle there. The follow-up isn't quite enough to guarantee it all in, but CoreJJ said he's going to be the one taking it all the way in instead. Vulcan knocked back as tactical, and Core have to disengage here. Core with the flash over the wall to get away from Perkz as he reinforces here in the bottom lane.
Yeah, good job there by Perkz to actually cover them in that bottom lane, because potentially they could have continued on that push. And Vulcan getting punished, was actually down a level, did not have his ultimate, and CoreJJ just finds the window to go in there with the Flash Ignite. They do end up trading for the TP, and they get the heal exhaust, so I would say it's fairly even overall, slightly favored towards Team Liquid, depending on if Jensen was able to get any sort of advantage off that mid lane. But a good play and a good response, you have to say, on both sides.
Back up here on the top side, Fudge does have the Sheen completed, so extra power in terms of his poke pattern as well as his ability to clear there with barrels. Alfari back in Mega Gnar means that Fudge doesn't really want to be walking up and taking too many aggressive trades with him. We know how often Gnar players like to use the ulti just to trade with their opponent, establish lane dominance and priority. He continues to shove the waves into the turret. Under 3 minutes until the next Drake spawns, with that first one having gone over to Team Liquid. We'll see if teams want to fight for that. We're seeing ultis online across the board here. Gangplank ulti just about off cooldown yet again. Tactical trying to clear out some vision here on the side of mid lane. Santorin has his flash, has his ult. There's playmaking to be done if Team Liquid want to go after it. Skarner Spire will be captured from Blabber, so Santorin will lose all the move speed, the unlimited mana that comes along with that one. As Team Liquid will continue making sure that they don't allow their opponents to get a foothold in vision. Perkz wants to go in, shuffles Jensen back into the rest of his team, but now the counterattack is true. The pull is there. Perkz, what are you doing being that far forward, man? First blood over to Tactical, put a bow on it. That might as well have been gift wrapped.
Yeah, he grabs the QSS as soon as he dies. He's like, well, not letting that happen again. But that was an aggressive play from Perkz that I agree. The follow-up is not really in the position to actually make anything happen from that. Jensen even had the early verdant barrier, so he's fairly tanky. Perkz goes in trying to make a play, but Sven and Blabber, the rest of the squad isn't there. You would have to have everyone on top to actually instantly kill off Jensen for that play to work out. Instead, he just ends up going down.
Yeah, a really unfortunate situation there, but hey, first blood's on the board, so a reminder, the LCS partnered with Blood Centers of America to save lives together. There's current need for plasma donations from people who have had COVID-19 for all the antibodies and stuff like that. We got a play here in the bottom lane instead, as Blabber's going to be the target, looking to make a play, but CoreJJ and Tactical have the maneuvers and the skills to be able to outplay them. Back to what I was saying, because the message is important. If you've had COVID-19 particularly, go donate some plasma. It's a win-win. Save some lives, get the opportunity to get a free Kai'Sa skin in the process. Visit ccp.gg for the details on that one. But for the details in the bottom lane, Cloud9 is taking the details and the paint and everything else off of the tier 1 turret. They're going after Tactical as well, but a good disengage keeps the man alive. But so many plates have gone over to Cloud9 down here.
Yeah, they lose 4 plates down there. Yes, TL did get a Rift Herald here top. They are going to drop it immediately. Should be a race to first tower, and they will win it as a result of this Rift Herald. Tactical's ultimate there was actually so critical because of the timing. He ulted Vulcan away as he was lanterning Blabber in, which made Blabber also essentially get ulted away, right? Because he is traveling to where the Thresh is, who has just been knocked away. Timing there very, very nice, but C9 pressing on that bottom side, looking pretty good overall. The Tactical with the first blood already has the Gale Force completed, so prioritizing a little bit of playmaking here with this Gale Force, and we'll have to see how well he can utilize it. Kraken Slayer is just so much damage when you have all this bonus attack speed that it can be pretty valuable. And honestly, against a team that has a lot of all-in, potentially like this, Shield Bow also does have a lot of value. So interesting to see him just go for the reposition.
Dragon is up. Who wants to fight for it, considering Shelly was able to get that first turret on the top side as well as the headbutt onto the tier 2. Team Liquid is feeling pretty happy about how things are looking on the other end of the map. Feeling pretty good about this bottom side too. Oh, nice use of the play to stop the follow-up reset jump coming out of Tactical. TP's showing up here from everybody now. Santorin looking to maybe get some lockdown on an additional target, but they will not be able to find it. Alfari gets himself away and he's killed before he's able to find the ulti. Never mind, he gets it off at the last possible moment. Shockwave with a follow-up, but Fudge gets out. C9 with a 1 for nothing.
Cloud9 just faster on the response there. More members to the play in a better timing. And despite the fact that Alfari came in, did actually get that Mega Gnar off before dying, they're not really able to go for anything as a result because they had already been forced to retreat. Tactical was already pulling back. Jensen did land a nice shockwave, but of course, at this stage in the game, doesn't have an incredible amount of damage. You grab the Verdant Barrier, has the tier. There's not a lot of AP behind it. Here was the initial play. Sven getting rocked here by this Tristana, but the hook from Vulcan was critical, and then as the TP comes through, it's just a lot faster on the TP, to be honest. Fudge arrives, Perkz is here on the roam, so is Blabber, and already Alfari got sectioned off, and that was the critical problem there. He TP'd in too far away from the rest of his team, not knowing where the other Cloud9 members were. There's not really anywhere else he could have TP'd, so I do not blame him for that. But Cloud9 recognize the situation and are able to just turn on and attack the teleport.
And Cloud9 bite back into the game with that one. Team Liquid was up about 2,000 gold, but C9 has reduced that significantly here. Santorin again will be working on a solo Drake. Considering he's level 9, the Q is maxed out. This thing drops quickly. You can see every single time he casts Q, it's doing 250 to 300 damage to the Drake. Melts through it instantly. He's got the Kim tank to make plays afterwards. So Team Liquid pretty happy about how the objective game has been going so far with 2 Drakes and 1 Rift Herald to nothing on the side of Cloud9. But C9 is continuing to farm. They do have CS leads for both their big carries in the Azir and the Caitlyn. Up there on the top side, yes, Fudge is a little bit behind, but with the inbuilt economy of Gangplank's kit, getting extra money when you last hit with Parlay, he's feeling totally comfortable too.
Exactly. There was an early laning advantage for Alfari, but that was pretty much eliminated off of the gank that Blabber did have. So Fudge doing great up on that top side, already has the early Essence Reaver completed here. Will be interesting to see if he wants to just go into Shield Bow second. That seems to be pretty popular these days, just as far as a build that actually allows you to side lane very effectively. To talk a little bit more about Santorin, obviously going for the Lucidity boots, going for the Chem tank, a lot of playmaking here, and he's playing not only Phase Rush, but also Hex Splash, which we've seen him show off a number of times. And even if you're not, using Hex Flash mid-fight, which you of course are not, we are seeing him actually threaten where he goes into a side lane with a brush, he uses the Hex Flash just to actually proc the Nimbus Cloak for that speed up, and you can use that in combination with your Chem tank, just do some sort of a lane gank, and at times can be pretty effective.
There's also so many nice little angles that Hex Flash can be used on, right? Into a Dragon Pit, out of a Dragon Pit, over a Wraith wall, over a blue side wall, over a red buff wall. There's a lot of opportunities if you have vision set up beforehand for Skarner to make plays around these objectives and mini objectives with the power of a Hex Flash. Now, for the meantime, we've got Alfari just zoning Fudge away, clearing out the minion waves before they're even able to make it to the tier 1 turret. But he's not strong enough to stand underneath the turret and allow Fudge to just beat on him while he does damage to it, so he has to back away now. Team Liquid regrouping here around the mid lane. Jensen and Core JJ, Santorin hanging around as well. Real Flash back up and ready to go. Skarner with Kim Tank, Flash, Blue Smite, ulti. This should be a pretty much guaranteed kill. You can't go for the Azir. He has QSS. You can't go for the Gangplank unless his W is on cooldown. So that leaves Gragas, Caitlyn, and Thresh all as viable targets.
I also really like how TL are actually doing their lane assignments here, just having the Tristana out in the side lane, who actually side lanes more safely and effectively than the Orianna. Even though that's not a traditional role, you generally have your solo laners out on those side lanes, but Tristana scales incredibly well with levels, getting the additional passive range with all the experience that she will gain in that side lane, and is very hard to attack because of the disengage with the Buster Shot, because of the Gale Force, because of the Rocket Jump, all of that self-peel that she does have. So TL is in a 1-3-1, but not a traditional one. But I really do like the assignments here.
All right, Fudge continuing to push up in the side lane. Alfari coming to answer that, but there's a lot of backup for C9 hanging out here in the wings. If Alfari overextends himself to try to protect that turret, obviously could have been a problem, but he is aware of the state of the map. He's aware that he has nobody nearby, so the tier 1 is not worth such a potential mistake. He'll hang back here in the brush, allow Fudge to get the wave all the way shoved up, and then he can answer in perfect safety. Looking at the state of the gold, Azael, 17 minutes and 40 seconds into the game. It's not even 200 apart. Both of these teams doing everything to stay neck and neck with each other.
Pretty much dead even. The advantage, of course, is the Dragons here for Team Liquid. They are on the march towards Soul, and it will have to be Cloud9 that chooses when they want to contest for that. Cloud Soul, I think, is actually pretty powerful in this game for both sides. I really think, and I have been talking about this more on cast, that people just super undervalue the flat 10% move speed. People think too much about just the ultimate boost that you get, which is beneficial, don't get me wrong, but having that flat 10% move speed on a lot of these champions is so powerful, allowing you to get around the map faster, to be able to chase down and retreat from fights that you wouldn't otherwise be able to do, especially on champions like Gnar when you're going Stridebreaker and you're already stacking bonus move speed with the Mythic passive. It becomes that much more powerful.
All right, Cloud9 and Team Liquid. Right now, we are playing some LCK #1 versus #2, but I want to see some LPL #1 versus #2. Give me some team fights. Give me some blood. Give me some action here. As we are approaching our next Drake of the game. Should be a team fight over this one. Team Liquid with a 2-0 Drake lead thus far. Cloud9 needs to answer. They got all 10 summoner spells ready to go for C9. And what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 for Team Liquid. We should see a true, honest 5v5 here. Shelly summoned up in the bottom lane. I don't know how much value they'll be able to get out of that. She is pretty far away, gets within charge range, and kaboom! Takes it down. Headbutt finds the mark. Will not be able to make it all the way to the tier 2.
Double TP coming in.
Coming up. Team Liquid's coming in, but Santorin's already been caught. The Skarner's about to die before anything else happens. Fudge grabs the kill here with the ulti. Once more, it's Alfari in a 1v5 separated from the rest of the team, and Team Liquid is completely disjointed. They wanted to bring in the teleports, they wanted to make the flanks, but C9 had the bodies there immediately, and they turn and burn TL.
Really well played there by Cloud9, a much better organized team fight. Alfari wanted to prep his Mega before he entered the fight, and that's why he's TPing into it. But when he actually comes in on the flank, it's a swing and a miss on the ulti as Ven flashes out, and then the fail flash into the wall, adding insult to injury there for Alfari as Cloud9 turn on him, kill him off easily. And not only did they get that dragon on the bottom side, Perkz knew it was so hard won that he instant TPs to top lane, gets the wave, and very likely can just finish this tower here too with Thresh behind him. He's even denying the CS here as we go into the Honda performance play. Let's watch it one more time. Santorin moving forward here, but gets hooked from the brush, not seeing it, and then in comes Alfari's Ven, predicting the Mega Gnar coming through with the early flash, avoids it easily, and Alfari not right up against the wall when you flash there. You've got to be pressed to the wall before you look for that flash. It is one of the harder ones to do, and there's not a lot of room for error there, so Team Liquid getting punished, and Cloud9 now in a much more comfortable spot, knowing that the Soul has been pushed back quite a lot here for Team Liquid.
Right. And it's tragic for Team Liquid, the fact that they had a similar error in the same spot on the map back to back. Cloud9 finding those punishes. And TL needs to start making sure that everybody's in the right spot, that they aren't going into a fight where C9 is able to pull that trigger because they have more bodies available for just a couple of seconds longer. League of Legends is a game of seconds, and just having the guys there a moment beforehand proves to be enough for Cloud9 to get ahead. QSS now built on the Gragas as well, so now there are 3 non-viable targets for a Skarner ulti out of the blue. Only Caitlyn and Thresh remain viable options, and Santorin's job gets progressively more difficult as we move forward. C9 with control over the mid-map territory right now, sweeping out some vision, controlling this bottom river, allowing safety for Fudge to continue to push up and farm here in the side lane, because as this gangplank gets more money as Zale, we know what GP can look like in the late game.
Be absolutely terrifying to go up against, but to touch on your earlier point, and I think a lot of what makes TL look disorganized in those last couple of fights, and when they had those fights around bot lane, as well as that previous fight where the TPs are coming in and they are separated, is just the speed at which Cloud9 plays. If you are playing against a more hesitant team, having those flanks come in, TPing into the fight is not as big of a deal, because your opponents aren't pushing the pace as much. They're not going for the hard engage. They're not pulling the trigger to begin that fight before your TP comes in, or to kill someone off during that TP channel. And in these cases, we're seeing one of the strengths of C9, which is their confidence to take these fights, to go aggressively forward. They know there's that chance that someone's going to be TP flanking, but they see an opportunity to go on Santorin, and they say, we can kill him off first.
Oh, Chickens wasn't worth a bullet in the head. Sven picks up Tactical, his first death this game. Oh, Cloud9 just had the patience to wait for it, and they get free money for their efforts. C9 with a 5v4 on the map, pushing down mid, looking to build a turret lead, trying to build a gold lead, and nobody's there to stop them.
And that is the playmaking of that Rocket Belt kind of in action there. Has the flash, has the Rocket Belt, the ability to close the gap very high here for this Gragas. The GP ulti is dropped where Tactical wants to retreat to. The ultimate from Caitlyn coming through. Just a very nice pick onto Tactical, who felt like he would be safe because he has so much self-heal, because he has such good range, but the engage was there and it was made with confidence from Cloud9, who's going for a bit of a more atypical build. Almost everyone goes Night Harvester on Jungle Gragas. This is a very rare purchase to see that Rocket Belt, and it's going to be exciting to see if he can consistently make those combos happen with it.
So what do we need to see here, Isaac, specifically from Team Liquid? Because it seems like we're not getting a super high action game here. There's no seams to it. We're not getting a super high action game here. But the few actions that we are seeing are Team Liquid seemingly underestimating their opponents and Cloud9 just being able to outplay, out-rotate, and outmaneuver them every time?
I would say if you're Team Liquid and you've been kind of beaten to the punch a few times in a row, you've got to stop TPing into these fights. You've got to be getting vision as a 5-man squad, walking around prepared to fight, because Cloud9, as soon as they see one member, they are not afraid to engage. They're not afraid to go right off the bat. So Team Liquid has to be in the same position. They have got to be grouped up. They're going to get 5-man mid-prio here and then move over towards the Dragon. And this is the kind of response you want to see when a team is getting engaged on and losing those fights before those teleports can really be effective.
Everybody's grouped up around mid. C9 waiting in the brush. Might go for a play. Spell Shield available on Jensen. Everybody but Thresh has QSS on the side of C9. Fudge has it built into his W. Perks walking back after taking a minor amount of damage here, but it's C9 with control over the Dragon Pit. So they'll have prio on that one. TL continuing to push forward, just going after the tier 1 turret instead. They're saying, all right, we're not concerned about stacking towards the third Drake. Blabber can have that one, no big deal. TL will instead take the gold from the tier 1 mid lane turret. They'll have control over the top side river for some Baron vision, but ultimately it's C9 tying up the Drake count, making it so TL's win conditions are disappearing.
The ultimate cooldown's getting lower and lower. There are some pretty long cooldowns there. You know, thinking about the playmaking and the importance of them for Cloud9, pretty big. You know, generally that GP ulti is a huge one. You don't really want to fight without the Gragas ultimate as well, so the playmaking there is going to become more frequently available for Cloud9. But TL, because they did go for those early dragons, they're obviously not worried about a soul for their opponents just yet. But at the same time, Cloud9, as you said, has been winning out in these fights, and they no longer have to worry about an opponent's soul whatsoever. You know, were it to come through, it's going to be close to 35, 40 minutes, so it's not really going to be a win condition likely here for these teams unless it goes really, really late. But at the end of the day, when you have a game like this and both teams have incredibly strong scaling, it's just going to come down to execution, right? These teams are going to 5v5 around objectives. They're going to find picks if they can get them, but if neither team is presenting that, it just comes down to positioning in team fights, coordination in team fights. Can TL execute on a perfect engage with Rel and the Gnar and everyone going in at the same time, the Shockwave layered over top? Or can Cloud9 disengage that and win maybe a more extended fight?
Well, Team Liquid might be going in right now, but CoreJJ loses almost half HP to a single barrel coming out from Fudge. He's got 2 items fully completed with another BF sword in the inventory. Alfari going in on Perks down here in the 1v1. Might be able to make it over the wall and take him down here. The Sun Disc is summoned, but he's slammed right back into it. Be the Emperor of this! Nice solo kill coming out for Alfari, and Santorin finds the one man without a Quicksilver Sash and pulls him to his doom. 2 for nothing for TL across the map.
That should be Baron. Pretty casual play there from Perks. It didn't seem like he was very concerned about actually retreating with Alfari in the area, and he just kind of gives over a very easy kill. The follow-up pick onto the Thresh means it should be their Baron. GP ulti has already been dropped, but it's not that big of a concern, and CoreJJ still has every ability here to look for the turn. We'll see if Cloud9 can play it out. It's going down kind of slow.
Blabber is still alive. Santorin is at half HP. If C9 wants to contest for this, you know Blabber will take a 50-50 every single time. He will go in and look to make these plays, but it's Alfari coming in with a Mega Gnar ulti. They're grabbing the kill on Cloud9's jungler immediately. Sven tries to stick around and pick off a kill, but it's Santorin in hot pursuit. He needs a little bit more distance to be able to take him down, but Vulcan is there for a clutch save. Enemy jungler is dead, but now Team Liquid does not have the chance to go for the Baron yet again, so C9 will sacrifice Blabber to keep that objective away from TL.
3 kills, though, going over to TL in a row there. Pretty nice for them. Getting the bot lane pick, getting the pick around mid lane, and then Fudge here trying to poke away at them. The ultimate did whittle down Santorin quite a lot, but the turn was always going to come through here with CoreJJ. It was a 5v3. Sven, though, did a good job of kiting this out. You have to give him credit. He didn't just spam every gap closer there. He kind of kept them interested a little bit more. Then as Skarner gets close, he uses the Gale Force. He uses the 90 caliber net. He uses the Flash all at the last moment, keeping Team Liquid interested, allowing him to just barely escape towards that Lantern there from Vulcan. But Gold now, again, dead even prior to 30 minutes here, and 2 dragons apiece. This could not be closer.
There's not anything besides team fight execution to determine who is going to win the game at this point. final, or excuse me, not final, third item coming in for Alfari here with the Gargoyle Stone Plate being completed. Down there, it's Infinity Edge for Tactical. Big power spike here. Remember the way that Infinity Edge works these days. It's all about being that third completed item when you have 60% crit chance for the extra crit multiplier.
Ooh, Cloud9.
So he's super scary here on this pick, but it's Cloud9 who have started up the Baron. They've got it down about 1/3 of the way already. Looks like we're having a little bit of video issue. I'll still continue trying to commentate whatever I can see. Team Liquid rotating Rec towards the mid lane. Cloud9 still here to answer him. We've got Jensen down in the bottom lane, continuing to push up there towards the tier 2 turret. Team Liquid trying to make sure they'll be okay here defending against C9. They know that they have their own guy in the bottom side, so they don't want to end up taking a fight on this one without proper numbers. Remember that Santorin's ulti can only really be used on the enemy Thresh unless one of the QSSs or the oranges are forced out first.
And it's going to be about the Dragon here. It looks like both teams do want to set up for this, potentially look for it. We'll see if they can find that. You know, Cloud9 do have the damage to rush down a Baron, but they don't have tankiness unless it's the Thresh actually, on that. Skarner can tank that Baron a lot longer than this AP Gragas can, who has had to go for the QSS as well. Cloud9 look like they're trying to position themselves to sneak a Baron, but TL are handling this very, very well. They're keeping 3 people around mid lane. They have 2 people on that Dragon, and they're going to be able to grab the Dragon uncontested without any chance of a response here from Cloud9 towards that Baron side. So really intelligent shot calling there from Team Liquid. Let's see if Blabber can get anything done here. He's got to be a bit careful.
Okay, CoreJJ eats some damage as the Caitlyn ulti comes through, but nothing else really too much threatening these guys. Jensen rotating into the top lane, looking to maybe stop Perks, but he gets out in time with the normal recall. Doesn't have to use the teleport for it. As Team Liquid, they know that Baron's alive. They know that Dragon's off the map here for the next 4 minutes or so. 200 gold separating the teams, 4-4. Everything is going great here for these guys. Or, well, you could say that it's going great for Cloud9 either. But Team Liquid, considering they were in the rough position earlier, they're the ones who have now recovered to a medium point with C9. The footing is even between the 2 squads.
And I just think that Tristan at this point of the game is unmatched. The fact that you are on those 3.5 items, that you are level 15, so you have incredible range at this point in the game, you have the ability to disengage these attempts coming out from Cloud9 and take over a team fight yourself. It is going to be so difficult to actually deal with Tactical on this Tristan as long as he's positioning well, as long as the counter engage is there. TL very clearly building for that 5v5. You have this front line coming out potentially. Blabber, nice Rocket Belt to actually escape there, using the Rocket Belt and the Body Slam to create distance there from CoreJJ, and they get the ultimate out of CoreJJ, which is a critical engage tool. We'll see if Cloud9 want to try to push the issue here and try to force something over towards Baron, try to draw Team Liquid into a fight, knowing that's on cooldown.
Cloud9 pushing out the mid lane, establishing the priority. Both these teams, just the way that they're playing against one another compared to how they play versus any of the other 8 teams in the LCS, this feels so safe, so risk-averse to guarantee that they don't just throw the game away because it's so close. These 2 teams recognize how important it is to win the games against one another because they know they're each other's biggest threat as we near the end of the regular part, the regular season of play for Spring, as we're going towards that qualifier tournament for MSI. They recognize what's at stake.
And to be honest, there's just not as many mistakes to capitalize on. These are 2 teams that punish people incredibly hard for overstays, for lack of vision, for poor positioning. And because they're not giving it to each other in these team fights, you're just not seeing as bloody of a game as you would against some of the other teams. I mean, these are the 2 fastest teams in the league. They both have the fastest game times, the best statistical early games. These are powerhouses, and they are just not giving up a lot here to the other team. Both of these guys are playing it like a championship match. They're waiting for mistakes. They're looking for opportunities to capitalize on, and their opponents just aren't giving many to them.
Cloud9, once again, rotating some bodies over to the Baron. Team Liquid, once again, rotating bodies away from the Baron so they don't get caught. Some wards placed down here that didn't quite get caught by Blabber's sweeper. You can see that 1 ward placed down from CoreJJ just to the left of the Baron pit entrance. Tactical will pick up the red buff here for himself. Tristana closing in on 4 completed items plus boots. This will be a serious problem, especially since every single one of these items will have crit on it. That means that once this next item gets completed, the man is up to a grand total of 80% crit chance on a hyper-scaling marksman, level 16, 34 minutes into the game. This is Tristana's zone, Azael, and this is a scary thing to be up against.
Yeah, it is terrifying. When Tristana gets the BT, already has the overheal as well, so you're going to have a lot of shielding to actually knock through, plus just a ridiculous amount of sustain built in. You know, a lot of people do like to go for Legend Bloodline, still from that precision tree. You have a lot of sustain, you know, from the runes that he's already going to be going, like Ravenous Hunter, Taste for Blood. You add that to all of the sustain he's actually purchasing up here, and a couple autos, you go straight back to full. So you've got to be so on point with your engages. You've got to make sure that you zero out that Tristana, or he's just going to heal right back up while three-shotting you.
All right, next Drake, 45 seconds. It's Soul if Team Liquid gets it, or it'll demand a Soul fight the next one thereafter if C9 can tie him up at 3-3. Team Liquid is saying, all right, just go for the Baron. Go for the Baron right now. If they want to go after the Drake, just start it up, make them answer. Santorin and Tactical together can duo this down so rapidly. Alphari staying on top of Fudge down here, winning out in the 1v1 for now. Jensen and Core JJ, their whole job is going to be to zone people out. Core JJ getting caught. Core JJ about to explode, buying a little bit more time here with the stasis. As Blabber is ready to go for a smite fight with a 50-50, but it will not happen. Santorin with the flash over the wall, getting away, staying alive. Now has to try to evade Fudge. Pulls him back here, but the QSS gets him to safety. They'll continue moving forward. They're looking for TL. They got a 4v3. TL's got the Baron. Tactical's going in. Sven's going to be disengaged on. Vulcan eating the damage now. TL with the outplays. TL with the resets. Tactical going in. Perks with the shuffle. Nicely done for the shutdown. But now we've got ourselves a 2v2 on Summoner's Rift. Alphari continues the chase after Sven. He will not be able to kite away from that one. And Alphari guarantees the team fight win here for Team Liquid. It's a 4-for-3, and TL get the Baron.
It's huge because they can actually run straight towards the Dragon as well. Jensen has teleport. I think Alphari should go right there. You guys are the only ones on the map right now. Yes, Blabber is alive, but the chance of him being able to get in there and steal by himself is incredibly low. So I am surprised to see TL playing it this slowly. I guess they have made the decision, just wait for the respawns, have Santorin come through, and try to entirely secure this. Because Perks is going to be dead longer, Sven is going to be dead longer than anyone on Team Liquid. They want to give no opportunity of a steal here, and this should be Soul in addition to the Baron here for Team Liquid, putting themselves in an incredible position.
And I really got to applaud Alphari, man. It's a top diff in that last play. He gets on top of Fudge, he solo kills him down there in the bottom lane, teleports up to the Baron fight, and ends up being the difference maker in terms of TL getting one extra kill in that fight overall. Let's take another look at how it all went down.
And the GP ulti was also used in that 1v1 on the bottom side. That Fudge did end up losing out on. Blabber just didn't have vision in the pit, so when he tries to go in, he realizes it's too late, so instead they are looking for the flank. But Tactical and Jensen both still alive here. The QSS is forced out, and Jensen, you know, sees that Perks is actually separated on the other side, so Tactical says, I'm just going to go in, and actually steps forward. That is literally 2 autos with his E-up and an ultimate, and he was exhausted, and he did about 90% of the health there from Sven. But then as he jumps forward, Perks has the ultimate available, and it's the teleport coming through from Alphari. You called it out. He won the 1v1 on the bottom side. He forced out the GP ulti. He TPs into the play and is the difference maker there for Team Liquid in putting themselves in position to potentially win this game.
5,000 damage for Alphari. You know what, Azael? I don't even care about the 2 isolated deaths near the Dragon Pit in the early game anymore. Does not matter. All is forgiven. It's great because that last play was the biggest, most impactful moment of this entire 37 minutes of gameplay thus far, and Alphari's the man that made it happen. Now we got to see if Team Liquid can get anything with the rest of this Red Bull Baron buff. There's only 10 seconds remaining. They've got this wave and nothing more. They'll get a little bit of chip damage onto the turret. They'll bring the front line up. They'll look to bust the rest of the turret down. They will go in. Alphari tries to get the Mega Gnar onto Perks, but he will not. And that means that Cloud9 knows that that engage isn't there. Alphari is back in mini form, but Team Liquid still has enough momentum, enough inertia to take down this bottom lane inhibitor here and break open the base of Cloud9.
And they got the flash off of Perks, which means when the flash comes up for Core JJ, when the flash is available for some of these engagers here on Team Liquid, Perks is going to have to be incredibly careful. Cloud9 do still have really powerful late game themselves. Of course, you've got the GP, the Azir, the Caitlyn, all big late game threats. but it is difficult to play out the game from this position. They're losing in the side lanes. They have lost control over a lot of the map now. Your opponents have Soul, which is going to give them a pretty significant advantage, and are now up, you know, with really the first significant goal lead of the game. But the biggest problem just becomes this Tristana getting stronger and stronger and stronger. Now has that 5.5 items, almost to that 100% crit rate, sitting on 95 now, will be to 100 when he actually upgrades that Zeal into a rapid fire or whatever he wants to go for. And the Tristana is just going to be so problematic in every single fight. You can't poke him out. It's got to be a perfect engage. And he has 3 big frontliners around him who are ready to peel for and protect him.
And there they go. Perkz in some trouble with the damage coming through. A shield shows up, but sayonara, see you later. Tactical with a bomb on his head. Kaboom, baby. Team Liquid with a huge pick and another one off the screen. Somewhere, somehow, some way, some why. Sven is immediately just killed thereafter by Jensen on the Orianna. And now with both of their carries dead, surely this is the end. This is the curtain call for Cloud9. Team Liquid, there were some mistakes in the early game. Cloud9 seemed more coherent, but now Team Liquid is striking back. Tactical taken low, but low is not enough. The shields are coming out, the reinforcements coming down. The 3-man Mega Gnar ulti serving him up on a silver platter. Team Liquid remains the kryptonite for Cloud9. They will take down the #1 team, and they will do it in style with the Bud Light Ace.
That has got to feel so good for Team Liquid, who has not been having the spring split that they wanted after domination in the lockout. Everyone had Cloud9 as the unanimous #1 team, and it is Team Liquid 2-0 against them in the regular split. They take them down in the lock-in finals. They've got it all over Cloud9 right now, and this was a long one. It came down to decision-making. It came down to team fighting. And Alfari was so critical in that final fight around the Baron. You called it, winning the 1v1, teleporting in, being a difference maker, tactical also on the Tristana, just unmatched in the late game. Cloud9 went for this engage-heavy comp, trying to utilize the AP Gragas, trying to utilize an advantageous early game here from the Caitlyn, and just could not get enough, could not push the game forward in the manner required to snowball on Team Liquid. And as a result, Team Liquid play their pace, play their style, get to late game with this Tristana, with this Orianna. They were just unmatched.
Yeah, I want to talk about the Orianna too, because we're applauding Alfari for being the one who made the big play with the Gnar, killing Fudge, enabling the Baron, which was fantastic. The scaling from tactical, also fantastic. But while these two were the ones front and center stage, Jensen is 2-0-8 as his final scoreline on the Orianna, and he gets the kill on Sven at the end of the game that lets them push and go for the win. So Jensen also had an awesome performance. I know the desk was talking about getting to see Jensen versus Perkz when they were both at their fullest. I don't believe that happened. Perkz had some real boneheaded deaths this game. I think that he wasn't fully being respectful towards team. I'm telling it like it is, man. Some of those deaths were silliness. They were foolishness. But that just means that Cloud9 has been tested, and this is good for the league. When the #1 team is still human, when they're still vulnerable, when their opponents can find weaknesses and exploit those, that means everybody can continue to get better, and I am excited to see C9 and TL remain competitive with one another. But now it's time for a break, and after that break, LaTigris will be talking with the perfect human being himself, Mr. Core JJ, in the Verizon post-game interview. Don't go anywhere.
I don't really consider it gear. It's an extension of who I am. It blurs the line between fantasy and reality. Sometimes, I can't tell myself from my machine. I think that's by design.
Welcome back to the LCS. We are joined by the perfect human being, CoreJJ, for our Verizon post-game interview. This makes 2 wins against Cloud9. How do you feel about your team's performance in this particular game?
Well, we actually focused too much on the macro stuff, so we didn't perform really well when we actually fight. It was pretty sad one, but I'm glad that actually the overall game was not bad. Like now we have a next quest to improve. I think we found the problem and then we won the game. That was perfect.
And I do want to get your opinion on later on in the game as well. But before that, we haven't seen Caitlyn Thresh for quite some time in the LCS, and Cloud9 did decide to lock that in against your Tristana Rel. How do you feel that matchup actually plays out in the laning phase?
Well, this is definitely, I'm gonna lane kingdom you guys, like just kind of pick Caitlyn Thresh. Like middle late game, their synergy is not that good, so that I don't like this champion too much, but it was actually really intense and they pressured pretty hard. So it was really fun to play. It is always fun to play against G9 Batyo.
Yeah, it's a rivalry that we as fans have had so much fun tracking. You mentioned that some mistakes were happening. It did get pretty tight in the mid game. So what were you and Team Liquid focusing on to make sure this ended in a victory?
For the last game, most important thing was Bunny could kill the enemy solo laner inside lane, so that game was really easy. It was not what we planned. Like we're gonna win game with a team fight comp, but it was really good job. Well done by like Bunny and Party.
Yeah, I mean, great team fighting there in the end to end it all with a Bud Light ace. Now, multiple players on Team Liquid have said that you all don't necessarily care as much about your record for the regular season, but rather preparing for playoffs. How are you all approaching these last handful of games to best prepare yourself?
I feel like I do care about a little bit, and then I think our five losses was maximum loss we could get. So that's why I said we're gonna do 13 and 5. Like you already lost the 5 games. It is enough for Team Liquid. We're not gonna lose anymore.
5 is more than enough. You're on a 4-game win streak now at this point. Well, CoreJJ, congratulations on the performances in these past few games.
Thank you.
And with that Team Liquid victory, we're going to continue breaking it down on the State Farm Analyst Desk.
Thank you very much, the Tigress. Continuing on towards that 13-5 record that they're searching for. But more than anything, Team Liquid will be the only team in the regular season to tout a 2-0 head-to-head record over Cloud9. Hi, you in fact predicted this. Did it go to your expectation, though, and how it played out?
For sure, dude. I predicted that Team Liquid win here. One of the 3 analysts, only one, by the way, out of the 3 analysts here is the smart analyst. I will let you all in chat decide who the smart one is. When you take a look at this prediction board right here, it gives you a tad bit of a hint who that is. But in any case, I want to talk about the game a little bit. When I was watching that game between Team Liquid and C9, it was definitely a banger of a game. I came into this expecting it to be pretty crazy, and actually, C9 kind of fell under expectations in the beginning. They felt really pressured because they lost their bot lane. So they started making all these plays that were kind of desperate in my opinion. There's like a 1% chance that play mid works, but they still went for it. And then that leads into this desperate dive bottom where they're like, hey, we lost Rift Herald, let's try to do this tower dive bottom. And it's just so hard to tower dive a Rel and Tristana. It just doesn't work. So Blabber spends, I don't know, 35, 45 seconds down here making a dive that doesn't work. Santorin clears his entire top for us, and it's like, hey, I have the Rift Herald. Guess what? He can just go back top, take the first blood top tower, and Blabber is still sitting down here. And the only reason they're doing this is because they lost the early game and they're feeling super pressured. And I'm not sure why. They have Gangplank, Azir, Caitlyn, which scales really well. Granted, you want to be winning lane as Caitlyn, but like, why are these guys doing this? They don't have to force these plays that set them far behind.
I know why they feel pressured high, and I don't think your prediction was actually the biggest brain play. It was actually the Alfari call out for the MVP, because this game was the Alfari show all game long. The beginning was fine, but oh my god, just hard carrying the side lanes. Those 2 solo kills from him just hard won the game for Team Liquid. I think he is just incredible right now. Clearly the best top laner in the league.
Mark, do you want to weigh in on this?
Yeah, I would love to. But before we build up the Alfari highlights, we have to show the game state that he was playing from, because I do think C9 actually still made some good plays in the mid game after kind of that early game panic a little bit that Hai was talking about. They actually started outplaying Team Liquid in bot lane fights, and a lot of that was some sick Vulcan hooks, getting him mid-air to turn this fight around on top of the GP ult, making it really hard to kite out of this fight. This was just some really nice mechanical outplay in reaction to Team Liquid plays a lot of the time. That was Team Liquid trying to kill Sven for being caught out of position. And these were the plays that actually gave C9, I think it was around a 3,000 gold lead. They had a couple of these plays down here. And like to the point about the scaling that I was talking about with GP, Azir, and Caitlyn, you're probably feeling really good if you're entering, the 20-minute portion of the game up gold with this comp.
I actually really dislike how Team Liquid took this little fight right here. They originally had control on the river, but then gave it up to spawn the rift at the bottom. And there's a thing that I really like, what I call getting mid-prio before an objective spawns, because it allows, 1, your mid laner to move there first, and 2, gives you more options. If you watch that replay back, you'll see that Jensen had to go all the way through his own forest to get to that position, whereas Perkz was just able to go through the river. And had Team Liquid just prioritized mid-prio instead, they could even summon the Rift Herald mid, I don't care. Just summon the Rift Herald mid, send your 4 people there, then go to the Dragon, you're the first one there, you have Orianna and a ball control, now you're the ones that have the control there, and they have to face check you. So, bad on Team Liquid to do that, but they still pulled out the win later on, so...
Yeah, I love that you called out the deficit, or the game state rather, that TL had to play from, Mark, because it was TL with an early lead. C9 made a couple really good heads-up play to kind of wrestle it back, extend to up to a 3K gold lead. But ultimately, it comes down to this fight here around the Baron. TL showing up in a big way to move themselves to 2-0.
And there's a lot of pressure happening because there's a 1v1 in the bot lane between Gangplank and Gnar, so Cloud9 is losing that 1v1 and feel like they have to go defend this Baron without having the Gangplank ultimate, without having any vision of this. And so initially picking on Terrell, it's fine, but TL already gets the objective. They get out, and this is an incredibly fed Tristana. Just watch to see how much damage he does in just 2 autos against them.
Yeah, I mean, C9 kind of gets split here. 2 going through the choke point where the Ori ball is. It allows Tactical to kind of re-engage onto Sven and then start resetting through the fight a little bit. And then the Alfari advantage gets to TP into the fight and help chase down. And I mean, this is after Alfari also solo killed Perkz a couple minutes ago earlier to put some pressure on the Baron before. And so there was really Alfari solo playing in side lanes that put so much pressure on C9 and kind of won them the game.
Yeah. Now, however unlikely it is that TL will actually catch Cloud9 in the standings, just given the game separation that already exists. Hi, I'm already seeing conversation online on Twitter and social media about what a best of 5, a rematch best of 5 will look like between these 2 teams in the postseason. Do you feel like both teams have become markedly better and that we would potentially see a full 5-game series if they meet again in the postseason?
I hope that we're able to see a best of 5 from them, because no offense to some of the other teams in the LCS, these games are exciting where they're actually doing a lot of macro plays and micro plays. You're seeing solo kills in the side lane, you're seeing macro trades and objectives, and I actually like watching games like this rather than one team getting stomped. And if you're going to put C9 versus like one of the bottom tier teams right now, they're not that fun to watch, Even if it's a best of 5, it's going to be like a 3-0. But you put Team Liquid versus C9 in a best of 5, I don't know who's going to win that one, and it's likely that we'll get at least 4 games out of that, and probably 5. So keep at it, guys, and yeah.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. We won't know until the regular season ends and we have our seeding for the postseason picture. But if these 2 teams keep operating at this level, it's looking like a finals rematch to me. Game 4 is coming up next with Immortals taking on Evil Geniuses. So stay tuned for that just after this.
Many of us are working from home and adjusting to new coworkers. Coworkers who borrow supplies and always interrupt meetings. A gift can help. And when you use your MasterCard, you have security benefits that keep you protected, so your purchase ends up in the right hands or mouth. And your staff can start something priceless.